Thank you. Welcome to Indian Section Online platform. Our speaker is Brother Shikhar Agnihotri. Let us start with a universal invocation. Just be silent for a moment. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. And have a meditation for 1 minute. Thank you. Today, as I have already announced, Brother Shikhar Agnihotri will explain and present the letter number 136 and as per the Big edited book, letter number 136 as per the chronological edition. As per the old edition, chapter wise, we are going through the disciple and chelaship chapter. It is letter number 65. Is a very interesting letter, and Brother Shikhar Agnihotri, we know all, he is a very serious student of Theosophical Society, student particularly on Theosophy, other ancient scriptures also. He is a founder of Pragya Theosophical Lodge, Lucknow. He was basically a and after taking voluntary retirement from that service, he fully devoted his time, energy, strength on the dissemination of Theosophy, not only in India, but throughout the world. He is a serious student, as I have told you, serious student of Theosophy, and he has been conducting study classes in different parts of India because he is our national lecturer and also international speakers. And he has been delivering speeches in different forums and now in the online forums. Also, he has been writing beautiful articles on Theosophy as well as ancient Indian scriptures in different Theosophical magazines and other magazines also. So with this short introduction, and now I request Brother Shikharji to present his subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep ji, for the introduction. But we all know that we take inspiration from you, the kind of work and dedication you have and you have been doing. It's really full of dedication and conviction. So hearty greetings and good wishes to everyone joining this study and discussion session. I would like to start the session with the salutation to the Guru principle present everywhere in nature. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Welcome back, everyone. So today, as you know, that we'll be studying this letter number 65 or 136, depending upon which book we have taken, and it was received in September 1885, roughly, and written from Master KH to APCnet. The first part, before we go into the letter itself, it was actually found, this letter from the Master KH was enclosed in a letter from HPB when she was writing the letter to APCnet. And these letters, the collection of which is known as LBS, Letters of Blavatsky to APCnet. And in the postscript of her letter, she writes that at this very instant, while she was writing the letter, she was receiving a letter for Mr. Sinnett from Master KH, and she's enclosing it, but she says that I do hope it is the last, for I have no more strength to suffer. And this was roughly in September 1885. And while reading this letter, although this letter was sent at a very critical and crucial stage of the Theosophical Society's life, and maybe somebody may think that this letter does not contain much of esoteric philosophy in the direct manner. But at the same time, if we dig deeper in the events that mentioned by the master, that how these events evolved from nothing but a small, simple, we cannot even call it a mistake, and later became such big issues that shook the very foundation of the Theosophical Society at that time. If we look like that, we can gather many pearls of wisdom. And also at the same time, we'll get an idea about how the occult laws and the great brotherhood of masters of wisdom work. And this is the most important aspect of this letter, I think, that it gives us a hint that how some small assumptions or carelessness or excessive enthusiasm in our daily life also, because we can relate all of this, not just what happened in the past, but what is happening in our life in present or what can happen in future, that all such things about something that we may think it's a small thing, but it may lead to very big obstacles later in the project. Secondly, that why it is that walking this path is not only difficult, but also dangerous if the aspirant has not prepared a strong moral foundation of selflessness, and why so many aspirants fail. Also, we will see that how a devoted and knowledgeable aspirant, member of the Theosophical Societies, and a number of them are led astray by the dark forces, or in the other sense, we can call by their own inner weaknesses. And actually, everyone, all of us, at any point of time are prone to all such things. So we have to be very, very careful and aware. Also, we will see how most of the scandals and the desecration of the sacred names of the masters could have been avoided if some of the things were not done in the beginning. Also, we will see that the master mentions that masters or the White Brotherhood try once in a century, and most likely in the last quarter of the century, they try to give birth to a movement that can uplift the whole humanity. Also, we'll come to know the science or the difficulty and the hard work that a master even has to do or face behind the phenomena or appearance of a letter. For most of us, we might just call it a miracle or a magic, but behind that, there is so much of work and hard work and difficulty is there that we'll come to know also. Discernment, that is viveka, in sharing the esoteric knowledge with others. Very often we come across in scriptures that this kind of wisdom or knowledge should be shared with those who are qualified, who are eligible, patra. And because, yeah, suppose sometimes we are telling someone about the power of thought, and we don't know yet whether that person has a purity in heart, or at least he's a genuine person, he might even use that power of thought for a negative outcome. And that will make us a party to that karma. So that's what also Master has said in this letter, which will come later. And lastly, finally, while reading this letter and the various references, we might realize that we must always feel a sense of gratitude to not just the masters and the founders, but all those known and unknown theosophists who underwent a great deal of mental and emotional torture at the hands of different agencies, but who still kept the flame of theosophy alive and burning with their determination and conviction and faith. Because in this letter, Master has said, also he has expressed his feeling that the theosophical movement is almost dead if some of the things were not done. And with this, these are the few takeaways that we can take from this letter. Moving on, the letter begins with Master writing to A.P. Sinnett, because A.P. Sinnett might be with some, in his letter to the Master, he might have been depressed or frustrated upon the things or the events that were growing. So the Master is saying that you are asking me to throw some light about some distressing event that is happening regarding Mr. A. Jabhard's fanciful accusation. And not only that, he predicts that not just that event, but there are dozens of events of a far more distressing character, which are going to come soon and burst over the head of HPB, whom he calls, that each of them calculated to crush the hapless, unfortunate woman chosen as victim, are ripe and ready to burst over her head, wounding as badly the society. So Master is currently referring to the future, that not just this thing, what Mr. Arthur Jabard has written in letter, but there are few more events or many more events which are going to come and going to hurt not just HPB, Colonel Olcott, but also the society. But coming to Mr. A. Jabard or Mr. Arthur Jabard and his accusation, it's very interesting that Mr. Arthur Jabard was one of the three sons of Mary and Gustav Jabard, in whose house the first branch of Theosophical Society in Germany was formed, and who took great care, especially Mary Jabard, who took great care of HPB when she stayed in Germany. And all the three sons of the Jabard family joined the Theosophical Society, including Mr. Arthur Jabard. But Mr. Arthur Jabard became somewhat critical of President Henry Steele Olcott due to the dark influences, as it seems, created over a period of time by none other than another member of Theosophical Society, whom we also know, Mr. Mohan Chatterjee. And that's what made HPB very frustrated, unhappy, and not even that, even the master had commented about this in the letters, but how all this happened, because we all know that even Mohan Chatterjee was held in very high regard by HPB, Colonel Olcott, and even he claimed himself to be a Chela. So HPB clarifies this in her letters to William Q.An Judge and to AP Senate. In her letter to William Q.An Judge, she says, and while we are going through these events, we can actually compare our life in parallel, that similar things, similar influences come to us also from different people, and how far we let them affect us decide our future. So she writes, and now to the other things and far more serious. Arthur, that is Arthur Jebard, is with you now, that is with William Q.An Judge. And she is saying that you will find him little changed. Why? Because he has spent just about 1 month with Mohini, and it has changed him so much that he is no more the same man. And the fruit of all this, that is the result of all this, is a manifesto written by Mohini Mohan Chatterjee and signed by both himself and Mr. Arthur. This is one of those conspiracies that Master was talking that is going to fall upon the Theosophical Society and HPB in 1886. And she says about this conspiracy, HPB, that anything more ungrateful, cold, and unjust to poor Olcott and cruel I have never read, nor did I ever expect such a thing from Mohini, who, if he is now regarded as a Jesus on wheels and a saint. Now she is saying, because often in our life we say, oh, we did so much for that person, and that person did not even say thank you or even show the gratitude. And this is what HPB is saying, that this letter or manifesto that was written by Mohini, signed by Arthur too, about Colonel Olcott and the how Colonel Olcott's administration is so bad, in spite of the fact that actually Colonel Olcott advertised about Mohini Mohan Chatterjee so much going to UK, and HPB made tall claims about him, and how when he is going to share esoteric knowledge with the UK or London Lodge. And now Mr. Mohini Babu, she writes, is cold, dignified, and reserved with me, friendly and patronizing, but still never showing his little game right before my nose, only behind my back. And not just that, not just to Arthur Jebhard, but Mohini, she writes, that is then exercising for over 6 months his influence over Miss Arundale to make her lose faith and belief even in the masters. To me, Mohini never said it so openly, but so many points more for him how shrewd and deceptive and cunning he can be. Although she says that Mohini said he is not like Babaji or Darbhagiri Nath or some couple of names that is also attached to that personality. He said he's not like them, but HPB writes that both are determined to gradually destroy the society. How? They are undermining it slowly, like not giving so much importance that, okay, Theosophical movement is just like any other movement. It does not have any essence or strength in it. And that is why they wrote the manifesto, the sense of which is society is useless, brotherhood a nonsense, and the president is a useless, worldly, conceited, untheosophical, and pernicious person. I mean, when we read about these stalwarts, HPB, Colonel Olcott, or any Besant, we take it for granted that they were so evolved spiritually and everything, masters helped them. So everything might have been, very easy in the sense, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Physical discomfort was there, we all know. But when we go through all these events, we come to know that no, all of them had to face such hardships, and from those whom they considered very near and dear. And that's what HPB is writing, that was the aim of these agents who became agents or who failed in Chelaship, became a agent of Dukpas, that they planned that down then with president, headquarters and society and all. And such was Mohini's influence on Arthur, that he who was all devotion when arrived, we can see also now, some people join Theosophical Society or any other such mission or organization or path with so much devotion, but some negative influences make their devotion go just turn upside down. So, and even he turned to that extent that Arthur Gebert, who was full of devotion, he said in the later part that what matters it so long you do good, that you work within or outside the TS. Why should there be any connection with it for us theosophists? And then HPB tells William Q. Judge to keep this letter private and confidential and not to say to anyone, but wait and watch how the things unfold. And she says, and this is very important thing, I should not wonder in these days of Libra, the sun sign, because it was September, Libra, Dukpas, and universal reckoning, if even you found yourself influenced by Arthur, Mohini, and company. And well, when I lose you, then will I say goodbye, society, gone to join her grandmother. What she is saying, that these were the times of Libra or the sunshine, the Dukpas, and universal reckoning, means the dark influences were trying to sabotage this great downpour of theosophical movement. And universal reckoning, that is the time when the punishment of past mistakes is fructified. Whatever we have done in the past as an individual, as an organization, as a country, or as humanity, all those things, the payback time, we can say, it is there. And she is warning William Q. Judge that don't be surprised that you yourself might be affected by that. But she also gives a hope that I tell you, we are on the eve of a crisis brought by Mohini and Babaji, but he who will remain true will be saved, while all others will not. The trouble with you is that you do not know the great change that came to pass in you a few years ago. That we will not go in detail about William Q. Judge, but the similar thing she wrote to Mr. A.P. Sinnett, that she said she does not care it anymore about it, because the days of heart aching and struggle and fight are over for me personally, because I have done my duty as ordered by my masters, and I prefer remaining with Mohini. Now it shows us that even though we know that we are working with a person who is antagonistic to us, who may be having some negativity towards us, but still she is saying that she is remaining with Mohini on diplomatic friendly terms than in open war. And the only thing she says is that the people must be made to see the other side of the coin of his saintship, because what happened with Mohini Mohan Chatterjee was he was sent as an ambassador to Europe to spread theosophy, share esoteric knowledge, but in the Mahatma letters it is said also that the adulation, the male-female adulation that we give, or hero worshipping, got into his head. And that's why if the other side of the coin of his saintship, which is the black ingratitude and cold-heartedness to Colonel Olcott and all, is not shown, the London Lodge will be lost in the fog of Maya created by the young gentleman. Why? Because he has psychologized them all, and everybody sees as he wants them to see it. So with this, we come to know about how Mr. Arthur Gibbard was influenced, and he wrote that letter. And again, Master referred to an old thing. That's why I said the word reckoning, because all the things that that happened in the past are coming to bring their effects. And Master says again that, again, I should have imagined that after my signal failure to satisfy your rigorous logicians in the billing, messy, and kiddle light incidents, my personal opinion and explanations were held in small honor in the West. He's asking a question. But at the same time, he says that although you seem to have that belief that every failure is a step to success, and you still have confidence in me, it must seriously alarm your friends. Now, this is actually a very short paragraph, but as I said, if we go down to have a look in this billing messy case and kiddle light incidents, we may find that it's not that everybody is a bad person or a negative person or influenced by dark forces from the beginning, but let us see this incident of billing messy incident, what Master is referring to. Charlton Massey, C.C. Massey, was actually an English barrister who was keenly interested in spiritualism. And I don't know how many of us are aware of this fact, that he was also one of the founders of the Theosophical Society in 1875. And in 1878, he became a founder and the first president of British Theosophical Society, which was the first branch outside of the USA. And not just that, he was also one of the founders of the Society for Psychical Research in 1882. Not just that, he was also the international vice president of the Theosophical Society in 1880 until 1888. And according to Josephine Ransom, he was one of the ablest metaphysicians in Great Britain and a lucid and scholarly writer on psychical subjects. But later on, he also disagreed or rather say, got illusioned or influenced by the dark forces. We will see how, even when he was such an important person in the Theosophical movement. And another person, what Master is telling about, is Harry J. Billing, who was the husband of Mrs. Mary Hollis Billing, whom Master said was a very true, one of the truest mediums that he knows about, and very genuine person. And when H.P. Blavatsky and Henry Steele Olcott stopped in England en route to India in 1879, they stayed at the Billings home. And Dr. Billing was elected vice president of the London Lodge also in January 1870. But how come Mr. C.C. Massey got involved with the Mahatmas? So, because since we have been taking the study of Mahatma letters, we might have come across all these names, that Mr. Massey figures very prominently in Mahatma's letters, being mentioned in more than 20 of these letters. And HPB, why? Because HPB believed in him, and she tried hard to get masters to teach him. And he was eventually put on probation. But now this is very important to understand, or not just understand, to go through, that although of a very honest nature, he was found not strong enough to become a chela. And in one of his letters to AP Sinnett, Master KH writes that without doubt, he is a more sincere and truthful and more noble-minded person that we can find among the British Theosophists, but his only and chief fault is weakness. If he learned someday how deeply he has wronged HPB in thought, that is, how wrong he was in thinking that HPB is not a genuine person, he would feel very miserable over it for himself only. And this probably refers to the situation that aroused at the end of 1882. How this all happened? Because Mr. Massey was one of the founders. Mr. Massey had become suspicious of Madame Blavatsky due to the plots or the scheme of Dr. Billing and Hari Chand Chintaman. who was from Bengal Theosophical Society. Harichand Chintaman showed Mr. Messi some letters supposed to have come from Madame Blavatsky and trying to make her appear as a guilty of a crime, and that she is the creator of this hoax or a deception, which whom we know as Mahatma letters. And in Mahatma letter number 92, Master KH describes to Mr. Sinet the strategies that these two people were using. And he says that I am morally bound to set Mr. Messi's mind at rest through you, because he was thinking that HPB is deceiving him. And he seems to think he has found the proof from Harichand Chintaman and Dr. Billing, but what he has obtained is not the proof, but actually the proof of the villainy of some men and ex-theosophist. Because Harichand Chintaman was exposed because he did a fraud of 4,000 rupees from Theosophical Society and Mr. Swami Dayananda Saraswati. So he was exposed and expelled from the society. And he ran away to England and always trying to look for the opportunity to seek revenge. And the other person, Dr. Billing, who left his wife, Mary Billing, who was a genuine, excuse me, who was a genuine theosophist and a truthful person, and also he left the society. He turned with bitter hatred against both the women, and since then he was ever seeking to secretly poison the minds of the British theosophists and spiritualists against his wife and HPB. And that's how all this started happening. And Mr. Messi was obviously not satisfied with Sinet's explanation and maintained his opinion. And now comes a very important part, that all this suspicion, HPB writes, that all this suspicion was probably part of his probation, because a few months later, the master wrote, on this last day of your year 1882, his name comes third on the list of failures. However, this did not imply that he had become an immoral person or a completely bad person. The master added in the letter that with all, he is the noblest, purest, and in short, one of the best men I know, though occasionally too trusting in wrong directions. And what he lacks entirely is the correct intuition. So the master has not given up completely on him. But this did not stop here. At the beginning of 1883, Mr. Messi resigned as the president of London Lodge, but remained as a member of Theosophical Society. Before he could recover from this Messi Billing influence, in September of that year, his suspicion about Madame Blavatsky and Mahatma was even more fueled by the Kiddle incident, Kiddle light incident that Master has talked. And in January 1884, Master KH wrote to AP Sinet the following, that his mind, that is Mr. C.C. Messi's mind, and this is, mind you, we can take as an introduction that what might happen, what can come to all of us who may or who may be interested in walking this path, or we have this strong urge to be on probation or to be a disciple. But in many of the letters, Master says not to even wish for it, because the moment you wish without proper preparations, there are chances most likely to fall and fail. And that's what he has described. How it happens, we don't even realize, but our nature starts to change. What he's saying, that his mind is clouded with black doubt and his psychological state is very pitiable, and all the brighter intentions are being stifled and his buddhic evolution is stopped. Even then, he is saying to AP Sinet that take care of him if he will not of himself, because such a person is not behaving in his senses. So please take care of him. Why? Because he is becoming the prey of illusions of his own creation. which we have not removed in the beginning of the path through yama, niyama, or right, or the eightfold path of the given by Buddha, or as given in Voice of Silence, that first, or any theosophical literature, that first we have to make a very strong foundation. Do not think about any phenomena, any psychic powers, any supernatural things, or any, all those glamorous things that come as an obstacle in the path. So that's what he's saying, that he's slipping down towards a deeper depth of spiritual misery. And it is possible that he may seek refuge from the world in the pale of theology which he would have once passionately scorned. That is coming before to the Theosophical Society. And every lawful effort has been tried to save him, especially by Alcott, whose warm brotherly love has prompted him to make to his warm heart the warmest appeals. This is the key for any one of us, that if we see such a person, if that person is not us who is suffering, if we see a person like that, very human side of us will tell us to just, cut off from that person, ignore that person, or even become hateful of that person. But the remedy of that is love, the brotherly or sisterly love towards that person that can only appeal to the higher self in that person and bring him back. And that's what he says, that was the Kiddle, because, and how the Kiddle incident affected C.C. Messi more, that Henry Kiddle was an American educator with an interest in spiritualism, who was best known for accusing Master K.H. for plagiarism, which we know, I think most of us know what it is, but we'll see what it is later. And how it happened that Mr. Kiddle gave a lecture in a convention in America on the subject, The Present Outlook of Spiritualism, in 1880. And this speech was published in the same month in a magazine in Boston, The Banner of Light. But what happened in December 1880, certain passages from this talk appeared in one of the Mahatma letters received by Mr. Sinnett. And in 1881, when Mr. Sinnett published his book, The Occult Word, in which much of this letter was reproduced verbatim, and Mr. Kiddle read the book, and he claimed, he said that he wrote to Mr. Sinnett through his publisher that you are using my text. But although we can assume that it is a possibility that maybe that letter never reached Mr. Sinnett, so Mr. Kiddle wrote to Stanton Moses, who was the editor of Light, the Kiddle Light incident that what Master is referring to, and he wrote to the editor Stanton Moses, who was already slightly irritated with HPB and Theosophical masters, because he was claiming to have been guided by another master who is known as in Mahatma letters as Plus or Imperator. In deep, we are not going into that. So in the magazine Light, he accused Master KH of plagiarism, which means that we take someone else's creativity, the work or idea, and passing them off as our own. That somebody else wrote an article or a poet or a movie or a song, but we share it with others as our own creation. That's why we have this copyright rules or patents and everything in place. So Sinnett responded to this letter in Light at once, from which resulted a great deal of correspondence. But for some time, the Mahatma did not even bother to answer these charges of plagiarism, because it was not of much importance for him. But seeing how distressed Sinnett was over the whole matter, because he was the one facing the fire through the magazine Light, that because in his book, The Occult Word, it was printed. So Master considered this fact and he decided to explain. Eventually, the Master allowed to refute all the charges publicly without giving much explanation, only based on the fact that he said that he had used Mr. Kiddle's sentences and modified them to express his own ideas, And therefore, he was not actually plagiarizing concepts, but only using well-constructed sentences in English to suit his own purposes, and which is perfectly justifiable. Like we use sometimes the idioms and the phrases, which like, you know, in few words it expresses a whole lot of meaning. But if somebody tomorrow comes that no, this idiom was created by me, I have a copyright on this idiom, or this phrase was created, that would become laughable. And similarly, if we see this copyright thing, patent thing is, from my personal understanding, is no, it has come from the Western influence, where the personality is very strong. Because in Eastern side, which Master will also give example in the letter, nobody claims the copyright on Vedas or Bhagavad Gitas or any such spiritual literature. It is for everyone, and we can, you know, use it. Of course, we are not using it saying as that we have created it, but it is for everyone's use if it expresses our meaning well. But in one of his letters, the master explained to Sinnett that how it happened, although he asked him not to share it with many. He wrote that I had directed my attention some 2 months previous to that annual convention where Mr. Kittel was going to speak. And some of the curious ideas and sentences representing the general hopes and aspirations of the American spiritualists remained impressed on my memory. And I remembered only those ideas and detached sentences, quite apart from the personalities, that is, the speakers who spoke them during the convention. And hence my entire ignorance of the lecturer whom I have innocently defrauded, as is it appearing, and who now is raising this hue and cry. And the case got more confused because the letter precipitated was by a young and inexperienced chela who omitted some passages where the master made some more explicit reference to the ideas of American spiritualists. And again, master replies. And by going through all these, we come to realize also that it has not been so easy for the masters either. I mean, we think that the masters of the wisdom, they have infinite power and they can do anything within the laws of karma, but it is not so easy following the universal law, divine plan, to put a new continent of thought into the mind of humanity. It is not so easy. They have to go through all these misunderstandings and everything what any one of us has to go. So he is saying that as soon as he heard of the charge, the commotion began in their defenders and it reached him, and he ordered an investigation. And what he says that it was actually he himself who was the most guilty and not the poor little boy, that is the new young chela who wrote it. How? Because the letter in question was framed by me while on a journey on a horseback, and it was dictated mentally in the direction and precipitated by a young chela who is not yet an expert at this branch of psychic chemistry, and who had to transcribe it from the hardly visible imprint that it's coming to his brain, and then he has to do it. Half of it, therefore, was omitted, and the other half more or less distorted by the artist, that is Chela. And when asked by him, the Chela asked Master KH that whether he want to look it again, he answered, he uses the word imprudently, that anyhow will do, my boy. It is of no great importance if you skip a few words. And why he said that? Because he was physically very tired of 48 hours of consecutive horseback journey, half asleep. And beside this, he had a very important business to attend to psychically, and therefore all of this had happened. And now with this we come to this thing, that how this Massey Billing and Kittel light incident changed the whole approach of CC Messi. And now the master said that with your permission, I have left the explanation of distressing is incident, all the incident generated by Mr. Arthur Jabber. He has explained to to HPB, but she has only given out a simple truth, which he says that not many of the people would believe, because except of her few friends, and if she has any left by the time this reaches you, because we have to remember that this was the time that Coulomb attack was also happening, and from all directions, from Society of Psychical Research was attacking society and HPB. And it was in the same year, after a couple of months from this, that HPB left India, never to come back. And she also resigned from the post of the secretary when she was not allowed to sue Emma Coulomb, who made a plot against Theosophical Society and her. And then Master says that now you might have understood, my friend, that the centennial attempt, that is in every century, that the attempt that is made by the masters to open the eyes of the blind world has nearly failed in India and partially in Europe, partially in India, and in Europe, absolutely, with few exceptions, because that's what he's saying. Except few theosophists in Europe, the entire movement in Europe has failed, and in India, partially because there were still some people who were staying true to theosophical movement. And still, Master says that there is still a ray of hope, that there is still one chance of salvation for those who still believe. And this we can apply to any of the crises that can happen to society, either in the past, now, or in the future. That for those who still believe, to rally together and face the storm bravely, let the eyes of the most intellectual among the public be opened. If there are any foul conspiracies against theosophy, let us counter those theories and bring the truth in front of the public, and in 1 year's time you will have regained your footing. Because in India, by the Christian missionaries, it was either Christ or the founders, that Theosophical Society is against the Christ and teaching, the wrong things. So the padris are busy as bees. Everything, all the conspiracies were going on against society and HPB, and that's what Master writes, that they have nearly finished killing one, that is HPB, and they are now attacking the other victim, Olcott. And how the PRS, the Society for Psychical Research, has given them an excellent opportunity of making capital of their ambassador. This was the third conspiracy that was about to befall on HPB and society, that Mr. Hodgson was sent on as ambassador of the Society of Psychical Research to investigate the whole thing of Mahatma letters that was created by Coulomb couple, that all of this is a fraud and HPB herself is a fraud. But what Master is writing, that Mr. Hodgson fell quite easily a victim to false evidence. And he went by some, he did not go by the observation of the facts, and he did not link completely the things that were all discredited, and he went by the evidences and the things given to him by those people like Hari Chand Chintaman, those who were already in the state of taking revenge from the Theosophical Society. So what other outcome can we, expect? And in this slide, Madam Blavatsky gave an example how they used every single thing, even written in a way of humor, against Theosophical Society and HPB. Even Master writes about Mr. Hodgson that he may say that when he came to Theosophical Society, he felt a personal disappointment, but due to that, he became upset, and that's why he turned the HPB that she is the author of gigantic swindle. That is, she has created all this hoax of Mahatma letters, and she herself wrote those letters along with other conspirators. But there is no doubt that if the society collapses, it will be due to Mr. Hodgson. And we may add the praiseworthy efforts of our mutual friend of Shimla, who has not, however, resigned, and those of Mr. Lane Fox. What society could withstand in its integrity the effects of two such tongues as those of Messrs. Hartman and Lane Fox? And I think we will stop right here at this point, although there are a couple of things. Okay, I think no, we can. Yeah, I think we will not be able to complete that I planned for today, but we still have next Friday, and we have Sister Meenakshi also to share with us in Hindi. So here I would like to stop and just to conclude this thing, that we can see how many conspiracies and people were working against the Theosophical Society. Those who were exposed and expelled from Theosophical Society became an enemy, and how masters had to try and convince these people. HPB had to try, and she even resigned as secretary due to this all these events. But still today we see that Theosophical Society is standing and is still spreading that message that we have received from our elder brothers. So the remaining part we will take on next Friday, and I would request now Sister Meenakshi to share with us the same in Hindi. Sister Meenakshi.
नमस्ते सभी को। नमस्ते ब्रदर, थैंक यू। आपने बहुत विस्तारित रूप से इस लेटर को समझाया है। आज का हम जो ले रहे हैं महात्मा लेटर नंबर 65 ले रहे हैं, जो मास्टर के एच एपी सीनेट को 1885 में लिखते हैं। मास्टर सीनेट से कहते हैं कि आप मुझसे नए चिंताजनक घटना जो मोहिनी मोहन के प्रभाव में मिस्टर एएच जेभार्ड द्वारा कर्नल ओलकॉट पर लगाए गए काल्पनिक आरोपों के बारे में है, उसे जानना चाहते हैं। लेकिन एचपीबी जैसी अभागी महिला पर निशाना साधकर उन्हें परास्त करने वाले कई ऐसे अधिक परेशान करने वाले प्रसंग हैं जिनका विस्फोट कभी भी हो सकता है और जो उन्हें और सोसाइटी को क्षति पहुंचाएगा। बिलिंग मेसी और किडल लाइट घटनाओं में आपके तर्कों को संतुष्ट करने की मेरी विफलता के बाद मुझे यह कल्पना करनी चाहिए कि मेरी व्यक्तिगत राय और स्पष्टीकरण पश्चिमी लोगों में कोई मायने नहीं रखती, ऐसा मास्टर सीनेट से कहते हैं। अभी बिलिंग जो है ये भी एक थियोसॉफिस्ट थे जो एचपीबी के खिलाफ होते हैं, और सीसी मेसी लंदन लॉज के संस्थापक और प्रथम प्रेसिडेंट थे जो प्रोबेशन पर थे और वे असफल रहे, जिन्होंने रिजाइन भी किया था। किडल लाइट इंसिडेंट के बारे में हम देखते हैं कि किडल जो अमेरिकन एजुकेटर थे, वे अगस्त 1880 में प्रेजेंट आउटलुक ऑफ स्पिरिचुअलिज्म पर लेक्चर देते हैं जो द बैनर ऑफ लाइट मैगजीन में छपता है, और दिसंबर 1880 में सीनेट को लिखित एक पत्र में मास्टर के एच किडल के लेक्चर में से कुछ अंश को लेते हैं, जिसे सीनेट 1881 में अपने किताब द ऑकल्ट वर्ल्ड में छापते हैं। किडल इस किताब को पढ़ने पर लाइट मैगजीन के एडिटर स्टैंटन मोजेस को पत्र लिखते हैं, जिसमें वे मास्टर के एच पर साहित्यिक चोरी यानी प्लेजियरिज्म का आरोप लगाते हैं। इस पत्र को मास्टर के एच 48 आवर्स की घोड़े के ऊपर की लंबी यात्रा के दौरान अपने नए शिष्य को मेंटली डिक्टेट करते हैं, जिसे वह पढ़कर लिखता है। वह चेला इस क्षेत्र में नया होता है। आगे मास्टर कहते हैं कि आपकी आज्ञा पर कर्नल ऑलकॉट के बारे में परेशान करने वाली घटना का स्पष्टीकरण मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की पर छोड़ा है। उनकी बातों पर विश्वास करने वाले बहुत कम ही निकटतम मित्र सहयोगी बचे हैं। मेरे मित्र, अब तक आप समझ ही गए होंगे कि हमारे द्वारा अज्ञानी दुनिया की आंखें खोलने का शताब्दीय प्रयास यानी सेंटिनियल अटेम्प्ट में हम लगभग असफल हुए। भारत में आंशिक रूप से और यूरोप में कुछ अपवादों के साथ पूरी तरह से। जो अभी भी विश्वास करते हैं उनके मुक्ति का सिर्फ एक ही मौका है, एकजुट होकर निडरता से तूफान का सामना करना। थियोसॉफी के विरुद्ध मिशनरियों के कपटपूर्ण साजिशें दुनिया के बुद्धिजीवियों के सामने लाए और 1 वर्ष के भीतर सोसाइटी में फिर से स्थिरता आएगी। भारत में या तो क्राइस्ट या टीएस के संस्थापक, आइए उन्हें हम मौत के घाट उतार दे, ऐसी स्थिति है जो मिशनरी ऐसे दर्शाते हैं। उन्होंने एचपीबी को तो लगभग मार ही दिया है और अब वे ऑलकॉट पर हमला कर रहे हैं। मिशनरी मधुमक्खियों की तरह व्यस्त है, ऐसा मास्टर कहते हैं। आगे वे कहते हैं कि पीआरएस यानी सोसाइटी फॉर साइकिकल रिसर्च ने एचपीबी और महात्माओं के पत्रों के पीछे की घटनाओं की सत्यता की जांच और रिपोर्ट बनाने हेतु मिस्टर हॉजसन को भेजा, जो आसानी से झूठे सबूतों का शिकार बने। उनकी तर्कों पर आधारित झूठा रिपोर्ट पूरी तरह सोसाइटी को बदनामित करने वाला था। इसमें कोई संदेह नहीं कि यदि थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी को नुकसान पहुंचेगा तो वह मिस्टर हॉजसन के कारण होगा। धन्यवाद। नमस्ते।
Thank you.
Anybody like to ask any question? He or she may can ask, or else as we have another session on this letter, so any question we can defer it to the next session. Okay, so now I request Shikharji, you can say in the closing prayer. With this closing prayer, we can conclude this today's session.
Okay, sir. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shikharji, for nice presentation. Thank you to each and everyone for attending today's program. With these words, now I am going to close the session. If anyone like to say something,
Sheetal ji and Jitendra ji wants to say something.
yes, they are welcome.
Shikhar, could you also, this type of program is very good. Enlighten on the letter number 10. Letter number 10 or number 45, I think in the Week House book. I got both of them. So letter number 10.
Letter number 10. Okay, right now letter number 10 in Vic Houchin's book, sir.
I think the one which was done in 1885, not by Vic. I think Vic one is 45. Letter number 45 of Vic.
Letter number 10 of Vic or Mahatma World Mahatma letter.
Letter number 45 is in 1882, sir.
Yeah, what is it? What is it about?
No, sir, it's a quite, I mean, it is, we can have a study of it, but to read it and now it will take quite long.
No,
but,
not to read it. I'm talking about the way you prepare the program for one letter number 136.
Yes, we can prepare. But I don't know whether Pradeep, sir, letter number 45 has been taken.
Letter number 44 already taken.
Yeah.
Taken by, I don't know exactly remember who has taken that letter, but as it is coming under the chapter wise of old edition, so it was taken up earlier. But as we are going through the old books, not chronologically, but in the chapter wise, so it was already taken up.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But it is about the probation and all those things.
Fellowship, that chapter.
Yeah.
So
it's on the religion, Christianity and Islam.
Letter number 45. You are referring letter number 44 of old or new letter number 45?
Okay, no. Okay, I will check with you, sir, which one you are referring, and I'll check if it is already available on YouTube. I will send you. Otherwise, we can plan it later.
You know, I got both books. I mean, I've read the letter and I've made a photocopy of those letters and distributed to many people, because even this today's program was the attempt by the Christian movement to destroy Theosophical society. Yeah. It's been following. Even John Lennon was killed by the Christian movement, and I'm just announcing for the first time to the humanity, Baba might be assassinated or something, killed by Christian movement.
But let us not say, I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Not go into those all things.
And
So, and actually, let's not even say which movement, because as masters have expressed so clearly, there are all kinds of forces, the dark forces. So they make somebody their agent. But actually, in the next part of today's part, it will come. How they are able to use it? Because it was some mistakes that were done in the beginning by bringing the names of the masters and all those things which masters prohibited in the beginning. But HPB, in her over enthusiasm and convinced by AP Senate, know that if we bring the names of masters, it will spread very quickly and very fast. They did that. And she has written herself, and master has also written in the other part of this letter that we'll take in the next Friday.
No, I'm just telling you one small incident. 2 days ago, the water bill at our lodge, Kitwe Lodge, Theosophical